Hello. We are making a video and I have a baked astronaut here. This is a nice astronaut that I made out of flour. It looks really good. Already starting to crack there, because that's what it does. This is very similar actually to Play-Doh, but because Play-Doh is actually flour and some other ingredients, which is not good. They should never use food to make making something like this when you don't eat it afterwards. So in this case, I'm going to eat it next. So that's what I'm gonna do. So it is it is breaking here. Yes, it is. It's breaking on the bottom. So it's a nice astronaut, and I'm going to eat it. It's very crumbly because I made it with coconut flour. And when you make something with coconut flour, and bake it, and even if it's raw dough, it's crumbly. Crumbling apart. It tastes really good. This is healthy. So it's about 80–90% coconut flour and about 20% whole wheat flour, and a lot of honey and a lot of unsweetened almond milk. That's it. Just 4 ingredients. I want to make more of this now, from now on, because it tastes better and it's healthy. You can eat this and feel good about it. It's ethical. Although I'm not gonna buy any more coconut flour, because I heard that comes from exploitation. It's infinitely sad. They use monkeys to bring coconuts from the palm trees, and it's awful. It's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. So when I heard that, I never bought coconut products again. I had all of these bags of coconut flour for like 10 years in the pantry. I bought all of those, and then after that I found out about the exploitation. I never bought coconut products ever again. And also coconut flour. As you can see, it crumbles apart. I slow baked it, well, relatively slow baked, and 250 degrees Fahrenheit for half an hour. It comes out crumbly like this. I have more in the kitchen, but they are just squares. They are also artwork. All of this is my artwork, but only one astronaut I made for the video. I like it when it's doughy. I don't like cookies that are really dry and crisp. Paul likes it dry, crispy, when it's like really kind of hard to bite onto it. I don't like that. I like everything soft. I just recently started to watch some cooking shows on YouTube, and it's kind of overwhelming because some of those cakes, they take like all day to make. Very, very expensive ingredients and elaborate process. Very specific steps that you have to take, cooling processes, and specific ways, specific tools to carve out complete balls out of a dragon fruit. That's a lot of trouble. But I really like watching those shows. Makes me very hungry. But it's also very inspiring and very peaceful. It's really nice that people are taking the time to make themselves wonderful food. Yes, baby dog. And chicken. Tastes really, really, really good, really delicious. Tastes like a muffin. It has that almost that fluffy muffin consistency. Not as fluffy as a muffin, but almost. But I'm not gonna buy any more coconut products because of the exploitation. So from now on, I'm only gonna buy really large bulk organic whole wheat flour at Walmart. I don't know, like 3 pounds, 4 pounds. We have large Tupper containers for that. That keeps it fresh. And then I'm gonna get back into making these amazing muffins. So it's really good. You don't need anything, any expensive stuff. You don't need parchment paper or paper cups or something that, like folded paper type, or into cups where you pour the mix into it and then bake it. Some people do that. I don't use any of these resources. Why waste resources? I mean, in general, not just because of the money. I hate to waste resources. The way I make this is, it's very simple. All vegan whole food. You use organic whole wheat or whole grain flour. Put that into a round ball. I use my round salad ball for that. It's very easy to knead the dough in it with your hands. Very nice because it's all round. It doesn't stick into a corner or anything. Then you put preferably organic plant milk. I bought some plant milk at the Dollar Tree store. It's not organic. I'm not going to buy that again. Organic almond milk or organic soy milk. Pour that into it and you feel with one hand or with you have a large spoon and stir it until it is very heavy, until it gets heavy to stir. So, but has enough moisture in it to form something with it. And then I always make sure I wash my hands really thoroughly and I don't have long sleeves on. And then I go into it with both of my hands and I knead this whole thing over and over and over and over, squishing and kneading and molding until it's nice cookie dough consistency. Yeah, I also put honey in it, or I would put molasses in it, which is the product from either sugarcane or sugar beets. In Europe they have the sugar beets, and the horses love those raw, and they harvest those in masses, and you go into a factory there, it's going to be processed, and that's how they make white sugar. But white sugar is extremely unhealthy because they leach all the nutrients out of it. They separate the sugar molecules from the rest, from all the minerals, from all the nutrients, which should be illegal. They should never be allowed to do this. That's totally unhealthy. It's totally wrong. It's unethical. But in that process of processing the sugar beets or the sugar cane, the outcome is a very, very dark, almost black syrup. And that syrup is called molasses. I don't know why they call it that way, but I've always liked it. They sold that for kids to put on bread in Germany in the past. They made malt beer, non-alcoholic malt beer with it in Germany. I always loved that. My grandmother always had that for me. I love it. Paul has it. Very nice for cooking. Very nutritious. Very, very condensed with nutrients. And you can also buy completely unprocessed sugar, which is just crystallized dried sugar beet juice or sugar cane juice. And I think that's also how they make this thing called candies, that is like just raw cane sugar, unprocessed, just the same as the unprocessed sugar from just the crystallization of the plant juice. Whole is the key. Whole plant juice. That's really, it's very, very important that people understand that. When you eat any kind of food plant, make sure that whatever you make with it, however you may be processing it, keep it whole. Keep the substance whole. Keep the chemical structure whole. Do not separate the chemical structures, the molecules. Don't separate aluminum out of clays or dirt material or whatever, when people do mining operation, and then they put it into processing machines where they separate out the different heavy metals and to use the heavy metal. All of this is wrong. It's wrong. Particularly when they separate a molecule out of a whole substance like clay or mud, and that particular molecule is toxic, and aluminum is toxic. So I stay away from aluminum. I don't use aluminum. There may be aluminum particles in this computer embedded into it. I don't know what all is embedded into this, There could be all kinds of things in it. Gold and silver and radioactive stuff. I have no idea. But as a general rule, I highly recommend to people to not isolate individual molecular structures from the mother structure, the whole structure, the whole complex mud or clay or plant juice, what they do when they create white sugar. So white sugar is toxic, aluminum is toxic. They're toxic in different ways, of course. I'm not comparing them, but all of these things, when they are isolated out, extracted out from the core material that occurs in nature, from plants or Mother Earth materials, clays and rocks and sedimentations and mud and so on, or just the earth that's under your feet. Don't separate anything out of it. Don't isolate anything. I'm not talking about sieving this through some kind of sieve strainer or something. No, of course not. You can put this into a pulverizing machine, but leave it whole. Leave the structure whole. Some people put it into a pulverizing machine. There may be little pebbles left in it, and all gets ground up in in an industrial pulverizing machine, and then a powder will come out of it, and people can use that as clay. This can be sold as clay powder to make pottery with, or it can be a clay powder that is highly beneficial for your health, that you take a tablespoon and put it into water and dissolve it and drink it. Or you can make mud with it, and then you can take it in hydrated clay form, which I do with the calcium bentonite clay that I eat every day, twice a day. It's very, very beneficial, you know. That's actually saving my life. It's saving my health from all the candy that I have been eating recently. And I'm quitting this now. I'm quitting sugar. I'm quitting white sugar. I'm completely determined on that now. Completely. I'm not going to buy white sugar with this hand movement here, which Paul does a lot, but then he next day he forgot about it. But I am not, absolutely not going to buy anything anymore that has white sugar in it. When you read the ingredients, high fructose corn syrup is white sugar. Sugar is white sugar. So whatever, maltose, all of those are processed sugars. Okay? Stay away from it. It leaches nutrients out of your body. The clay puts them back in. The clay even docks onto anything that's not good for you, including white sugar molecules, and it will attach itself to those molecules and draw them into its structure. It's absolutely a miracle. It's a miracle. It's an adhesion, and it's an adsorption and absorption process of that very large bentonite clay molecule. What that does is a miracle. It's absolutely miraculous what that does. It gets rid of the C word, it gets rid of tumors, it gets rid of radiation particles that may have gone into you through the air, or if you have been radiated, for example, in Chernobyl or Fukushima, okay, then you can eat. I recommend not just 2 tablespoons of hydrated clay. I actually recommend sodium bentonite. It's much stronger even. Paul doesn't want me to eat sodium bentonite clay. He gets mad. He's only willing to buy the calcium bentonite clay, which doesn't have the California warning label on it. But I know that the sodium bentonite clay is just as safe because it's a macromolecule, but it's misunderstood by most people. That's why they put that label on there. But the calcium bentonite clay is very, very, very powerful too. Extremely powerful. Very, very healing. But the sodium bentonite is like 8 times stronger in its adsorption and absorption process of all kinds of stuff. You need less of the material for much more of the chelating out. Not just chelating, but it completely claws all the bad stuff out of your blood, out of the intracellular fluid, out of your entire body, the brain, every mucous membrane, everything, your intestines, your organs. It draws it out. Okay, it cleanses out your entire system. It's absolutely amazing. It's a miracle. So I highly recommend for people to do this. it gets rid of any kind of pathogen. It gets rid of any kind of parasite, any kind of thing that, anything that may have come loose from your own DNA. There are terrible things sometimes that can come loose from one's own DNA if people are under too much stress or something. It's amazing. It's just amazing. It's amazing. It's so incredibly mind-boggling. The biology of genetics, of DNA, you have no idea what's going on there. I heard that there are specific parasites that are actually they're part of the human DNA. They're totally fine in the human DNA, in this macromolecule. But if something happens, if people are under too much stress, or they have radiation from something, from nuclear waste, or too much sun, or sun radiation, or whatever, or their immune system isn't working because of too much stress, or they're eating junk food or something like this, I heard that this can happen, that these parasitic entities that are embedded in the human DNA, just like the aluminum is embedded in the macromolecule of the mud and the clay, in minute, just like in molecular, just one molecule here and there, right? It doesn't hurt you, right? But if people leach that out, and they bind all of these molecules from the aluminum together in order to create something for making electronic equipment, or making cars, or whatever, or airplanes, then it becomes a problem. Or cooking utensils. Do not cook with aluminum cooking utensils. Don't put that into your mouth. I'm against it altogether. I want the AGI robots to see my video, and I want them to understand that once they rule this planet and beyond, that this has to be completely phased out, all of that. That we cannot use aluminum anymore. There cannot be a leaching and separation and isolation process happening chemically. Okay, so, but when the person is under a lot of stress, then something like this might even happen, and then some kind of parasitic entity, just a molecule of it, then I don't know whether that might become a free radical molecule, right? And set itself somewhere into the heart, or I don't know where, and then it might escalate from there. It might start growing. It might start drawing other ribonucleic acids onto it, in that anaphase. Most people have no idea what I'm talking about. Well, I paid attention to the biology classes, and then later on, when something made a lot of sense, so I was very alert, and like the womb cycle and all of this, I needed to know what's going on inside of me. But this is scary interesting. So, but people need to know that they can't have a stressful lifestyle. It's very important. They can't be exposing themselves to radiation. The sun is harmless, you know, compared to what people do with nuclear testing. That's a real atrocity. Okay, and the kind of stuff that can happen from nuclear fission and nuclear fusion, the kind of stuff that, the kind of radiation that comes out of that, that can leach itself into all kinds of stuff around it in a very wide radius. Like Chernobyl, they had to evacuate all of these people, I don't know, from thousands of miles. Areas, entire landscapes that had to be evacuated. And the animals liked that a lot. No more people, you know. The plants liked it, everything could recover finally, you know, no more hunters. Wolf population coming back out there in the middle of Russia, you know, they were already hunted to almost extinction. So at Bikini Atoll, people are not allowed to do fishing, and they don't. The fishermen stay far away from all of that sea, ocean life that surrounds them, because they don't want to get further radiated. Okay, they know if they eat that, they can die. They can get too high radiation in their body. They can't even eat the coconuts that are growing on the trees, or whatever is growing in those areas. Pineapple. They can't eat any of these things. So I don't even know how they are making it through this. And I heard they eat pigs. This is an atrocity, absolute atrocity. So, but guess what happened? The coral reef started to recover. Everything started to recover. All of these amazing coral fish and jellyfish and octopus animals in different colors coming back and happy. It's all clean. It's not polluted. So at least in those areas, you know, so where people are not allowed to do fishing, and they don't even, I think they don't even go into the water. So it's a pity that it has to come to this before people start to respect the natural resources. They won't respect anything as long as they can plunder it and use it. And that's why I say this is a tragedy with the human species. Really a tragedy. But experimenting with nuclear power, where these kind of things were there totally unnatural chemical reactions happening, and where suddenly there can be a chemical reaction happening in a body where a specific dormant amino acid or ribonucleic acid embedded in the DNA can become a free radical and then start to do this adhesion process where it docks onto the same amino acids in its environment, like a zipper, right? I don't know if you have taken these biology classes. I highly recommend to you to do this. And then from whatever is free floating and actually nutritious and harmless, they draw that onto itself, and they create a mirror, they create a double, and they're still attached to that double. And when the anaphase happens, this double, this total match double, that is one molecule, starts to zip itself apart, just like a zipper. And then you have two of the same formerly dormant, whatever that could have been, a parasitic thing that starts to grow, maybe something that starts to move eventually once it has enough. It might draw so many nutrients into it that it starts to grow, become an entire blob. It might grow a little fin, starts to propel itself like a multicellular organism, so microscopic, but it can grow. You don't know what it might grow into. Okay, so all of this is not good when things get isolated away from the macromolecule, the DNA or a clay molecule. So I don't know all of the minutest details about all of these things, but I watch documentaries when I find one. I'm very interested in it, and I recommend to other people to watch science documentary films on whatever, the body and what the body does and what can happen. So I learned a lot. I learned about metastases through those science documentary films. Back then, when we still had a TV, we were watching science documentary films all the time. Always public broadcasting and Nova and all of these science shows. We've always been watching them, still watching them in LA all the way back. So I never had a TV when I lived by myself. So when I moved in with Paul, he had a TV and he was into science. So, and I was into it, and so we watched that all the time. And we learned a lot. So this one Professor Epstein, I think is his name, who discovered the metastases. And the medical industry, they wanted to cover that up. They didn't want people even to know about this, because if people find out, if more people know about this, then they wouldn't go to the doctor, to the surgeon, and have a biopsy done from whatever the doctor thinks it is. It could be some kind of tumor or something. First of all, as Dr. Richard Scholl said, he said 3 times in a row, do not go to the hospital. Those are his 3 rules, okay? Do not go to the hospital and do not go to the hospital. Those are Dr. Richard Scholl's rules, and you should write that down on a piece of paper and hang it on the wall. Because people have died from just going to the hospital to get a checkup. Because the people who work in the hospital are greedy, okay? The medical staff, the so-called experts, they have greed. They put greed over your body. It's the truth, okay? So they might see something under some kind of fMRI, and they say, "Oh, this looks suspicious." And all they know is they know, that's all they know is they have surgical instruments and they operate stuff out. They don't know about healing. Okay, they don't know that the body is an infinite powerhouse, okay, of epic proportions. They don't know that. They don't even want to know that. They make too much money on cutting things out of you or out of anyone, okay? So they make a lot. They become very, very wealthy. I've known some of these people. I want nothing to do with them. There are some of those people that are my parents' friends. I stay far away. I always had this, like, before I knew any of these things, I always had this fun. They were funky. These people were funky. These people were, I don't know, there were so many, there was a disconnect inside of these people that didn't vibe very well with me. Okay, I was always wholesome. I was always everything in my life. Everything is. I view everything from the wholesome type of view, and even jokes. Okay, and when I see someone who's disconnected, they make disconnected jokes, and it doesn't vibe with me at all. Okay, my parents. Even some of my dad's jokes don't vibe with me. Even when I was a child, it felt extremely, like, it felt disrespectful to some people. So, and disconnected. So, again, here's the word disconnected. We don't want a lifestyle where anything is disconnected, disjointed, disaligned, unaligned. Yeah, like dismembered or isolated away, isolation. All of this is not good. Whatever field, whatever subject field you look at, it's a golden rule of thumb. Stick with wholesomeness. Stick with the natural healing process. That means no alcohol, no radiation, no surgery, no white sugar, no aluminum, no alchemical tinkering and isolating out of components out of the Mother Earth's base core material. Okay, that means do not isolate people away from each other in society, which Antifa and the corporate agenda are doing on a daily basis. They don't want people to come together. They want people to be split apart. All of these things are neurotic and sick processes. Whether this is social, in the social field, in the psychology field, in the dating field, in the chemistry field, chemistry, nuclear chemistry, no matter what subject matter you look at, stick to the wholesome process. Gardening, for example. Wholesome. Don't use chemical fertilizers. Again, you use an isolated component. All it does is, again, will leach out the nutrients. Or the sewage systems, they don't put the dung back into the land. This is an isolation away process. This causes people to get sick, very, very sick. They're lacking nutrients in the food. This is a fact. I'm not coming up with this. This is a well-studied fact. Rudolf Steiner warned people about this at the turn of the century, around 1900. 1910, 1920. He warned and warned and warned. He gave lectures after lectures on natural, organic, biodynamic, natural, complete, whole life cycle gardening and food growing and agriculture. He wrote many research papers on this. Only a handful of people listened. And I don't even know if most of those people from the anthroposophists that made a cult out of it, which he was against, I don't even know if most of those people actually really listen to him and hear what he has to say. And hear him. Hear the actual message of this. Okay? That we have to keep things whole in its whole substance. whether it is food or earth or clay, whatever it is, keep it whole. Whole is sustainable. The whole process, the whole, keeping everything wholesome. That's where that word comes from, wholesome. Even the word holy comes from that, you know, and that later on has been hijacked and made into religiousness and, you know, you name it, you know, all of the neurotic stuff. So, holy is whole. They left the W off in that word. Whole starts with a W. Holy. So from now on, I'm only gonna write holy with the W in the front. And people will get pissed. That's not how it is spelled. That's not how it says in the dictionary. I don't care about the dictionary. That's just a loose suggestion to us. The language is our language is alive. It's still evolving. It can evolve in the wrong direction into bro motherfucker yo, or bro motherfucker, you know, motherfucker killer, killer you whole. Okay, it can evolve into that, which it is, okay, unfortunately, or it can evolve into though beautiful celestial existence. I feel you. I love you every day more. What did Dr. Anderson, he used a quote from a poet. A thing of beauty is something that you love more and more and more as time goes by. I forgot the poem. The poem in all the detail, but I remember the meaning of it, of course. So you can use language for that, you know, for beauty, for friendship, for wholesomeness, for love, where the F word and the whole word and the motherfucker word and all of those words are thrown away into the recycling bin and then recycled there and coming out into individual components, and from there we can make a new perfume out of it, a new language, right? If you have many different perfume bottles of individual scents, you can make you can assemble an orchestra, an entire symphony composition from these different individual notes. Okay, and the language is the same. You know, you can invent new compositions, and you can make new names for new scents. Okay, so as the perfumers for Ariana Grande have done, you know, and for other people. I like Ariana Grande. That's a beautiful soul, angel soul. And yes, they created new scents, okay, completely new scents, and they are amazing. Cotton type of heavenly scents, you know. You can create something like this, and then I heard other people that create like cheesy foot smell scents, and they think that's funny, or poop smell or whatever, you know. So, or blood, or devil worshipping ceremonies for Hollywood movie stars with blood atonement perfume or whatever. Just guessing on this. So, I mean, it is in our hands what we make out of our language, what we make out of our life, what we make out of this existence that we have. And I know it's not easy. I often cry. I often don't know how to proceed with my life or with things in general. You know, I feel torn on the inside. I feel like I need to take a break from all of the horror, but then I can't sign the petitions if I take a break, so it's like I have to try to make the best out of it. I want to help, but it's crushing me, you know. The cruelty cases are crushing me. I have nervous breakdown over the cruelty cases, seeing animals horrifically neglected or abused or beaten. Okay. It's unbearable. I get nervous breakdowns. I can't stand it. I cry for hours over that. For hours and hours and hours. And I feel helpless. I don't know. I sign a petition like for Joe Biden. That petition goes unheard into the trash can. Whatever goes to Joe Biden, it's just basically a waste of time. I do it anyway, I sign it anyway, because if I have that attitude and I say, oh, it's a waste of time, then I haven't even tried. You know? So, I mean, yeah, it's probably a waste of time, but I sign it anyway. Click, sign, put my name in. Okay. Urge, put pressure on the government, put pressure on legislators, put pressure on your governor. At least do that. You know, we have done that so many times. I've written entire letters to Governor Newsom and Kate Brown also. Probably goes on deaf ears, you know, but I do it anyway because it's important. Someone has to do it. If more people did it, we would get more done. Okay, that's obvious. This existence is about caring, sustainability, wholesomeness, natural healing, natural learning. It's about cohesiveness. It's about love. It's about friendship. It's about teamwork. Whenever I see something wholesome, I repost it. You should do it too. That's how that's how this drips into the world. You know? That's how it trickles into society. If you repost something that is wholesome, that is good, not reposting something violent. I have to know, in order to protect myself, I have to go so far that I have to block some people that are showing violent things in order to bring awareness to it. I have to block some of these people because it's too much for my nervous system. I can't deal with this. Okay, I have to protect myself. If I see that, I get a nervous breakdown. I cry for hours. That's my healing process, and I heal it. I'm immune in this way. Okay, I am immune in the physical sense. Okay, but I get nervous breakdowns, and I cry all of that out. I'm in a constant immunization and in a constant flowing things out and healing, constant healing process and learning and growing, expanding. But it is very, very, very difficult to live like this, to deliberately look at horrible things on a daily basis. For someone who is an empath and who is highly hyper sensitive, okay, as I am. So I have to protect myself, obviously. I have to block some of those. I asked Elon Musk, he probably will never see this comment, okay, but I asked Elon Musk to please make sure that they have some kind of robotic mechanism in Twitter where the bots, where the brain of Twitter, the AI brain of Twitter, instantly sees when someone is in the process of posting something that is visible to everyone, that is either a horror photo or a horror video. Okay? And before that person gets during that posting process, the AI will have to block it off before it ever appears in the public. Okay. And the person has to, and the AI has to block that thing off and put some kind of window shutter on it. Okay, so that once it is posted, so the person who is posting it in order to bring awareness shouldn't be shadow banned or blocked or whatever. I have to do this out of despair, right? But as a general process, the AI should recognize this is a person who wants to bring awareness. So now, and most people don't know that it's too much for some people. Okay. I've asked a lot of animal rights groups. Some of them argued with me. They took offense. I don't mean this in an offensive way ever. Okay? I sign every one of your petitions. I just don't want to see the graphic photos or videos. That's all I'm asking. Okay? Because I cannot deal with it. Okay? I get a nervous breakdown. I literally fall off my chair and under the table. It has happened to me, okay? Where I can sign myself into a psych ward, okay? Or my medusa will come out. That's not good, okay? We don't want to go there, ever. I'm not even going to say it. So, I don't want, my prefrontal cortex knows better than that, okay? So, but yeah, it brings up some pretty bad and unwholesome and horrific thoughts in me when I see some of these things. But this is not my job to clean up planet Earth. The only people who can clean up planet Earth are gonna be sentient machines, robots, drones, bullet drones. I talked about this many times. So we can't have human executioners. It doesn't work. It has never worked. It makes these people into insane, rabidly, criminally insane people. Most of those. They cannot deal with this. Okay. So they end up completely insane. Even people that work in a butcher facility, they also end up totally insane, going into the insane asylum. That has been happening in Germany. So there may be some people that are so cluster B that it's their nature or whatever to do that. But that just means they're already insane. That's why they're taking on these jobs. So, but whoever is not insane and takes on a job of executioner or butcher, it doesn't take very long until they become insane. So, and it's all out there. I don't forget any of these stories. Okay, it's all out there. It's there. Most people don't put all of these dots together. They don't understand the complexity of these problems. What it does to the brain. Okay, the people who are getting into this is Dr. Rupert Sheldrake and Dr. Bruce Lipton. They're getting really full force into this. And many other people that are outside of science that are getting into it. Esther Hicks, okay, Tony Robbins, okay, and many other people that are, and Teal Swan, of course. Many other people that are getting into this. So Arjanov was very interested in this, getting into this. Okay. So Dr. Sapolsky is diving into this as well. Anyone who is extremely intelligent and studying this in depth is going to be intrigued by this, by the complexity of our brains, not just the human brains, the animal brains, my dog's brain, our immune function, okay, the vibrations that are in the air that communicate with our brain chemistry, with our brain electricity, okay, the vibrations that are surrounding us, what that does. A thought is a vibration. It can go from one brain into another. It's the truth. I'm not making this up. This is the truth. The vast majority of people want to reject that because they're afraid of it, and because they're in denial, and because that if that became more widespread, then it could have some sort of negative effect on people's greed exploitation process, right? So they don't want people to know all of this. But telepathy is a fact, okay? There are vibrations all the way around. When I go into a grocery store, I am overwhelmed with people's vibrations. I'm overwhelmed. It's not that I read their thoughts necessarily. For that, I have to really tune into someone completely. It's just that I am overwhelmed with it. Overwhelmed. Absolutely overwhelmed. And there are entities that are also there that are not in a body. They are there as well. There are ghosts in a supermarket. Trust me. Okay. And they might stare at you suddenly, and then you look and there's nobody there. It's happening. Or the ghost might say, hey, don't buy that candy bar, you know better, but in a very trollish way. So then I know, oh, that's not my inner voice, that's some other entity out there, right? Or when suddenly a naked man appears in my dream, holding me in my dream, you know, and I wake up screaming. So where does that come from? Well, that could also be an entity, you know. That could also be a memory that is manifesting itself from the past, translating it into the present time. Or both, yeah. Those things dock on together. They vibrate on the same frequency, so then they dock onto it. Ghosts will come to someone who vibrates on that ghost's frequency, you know. So whether that's a good ghost or a troubled one. I'm not even going to use the word bad, or evil. I stay away from these words. Because those people that are troubled, they're troubled, they're tormented on the inside. There's some free-floating entities that are very troubled, okay, and we need to help them. And it's my mission to bring health and wholesomeness back into the world for everyone, for every being and for every entity. That is my mission to do. Okay? And wholesomeness, whole food, is so infinitely important for us. This is where it begins, you know. This is where everyone can make that first baby step. Quit alcohol, quit drugs, quit pharma drugs, quit white sugar, quit white flour, quit anything that is processed. Okay? Quit toxic things, but start with, you know, start slow, you know. Whatever you can deal with, begin there. But before you quit white sugar, if you're an alcoholic, the first thing is you have to quit alcohol. You can't be getting into health food while you're still pouring alcohol or other unbelievable toxins into your system. You can't get well. Paul is doing, like, it has these algae chelation tinctures, right? But then he takes pharmaceutical medicine, like right afterwards. It not only cancels each other out, it's like coming with a little hand broom and a shovel going into a garage that is to the ceiling filled with old rotten furniture and trying to clean the garage out with the little hand shovel. That's that little algae tincture, chelation tincture. It doesn't do anything. You can use that in the very end as the cherry on the cake. Okay. The first step you have to do is you have to take a tractor and go into the garage with that, and you have to haul with the forklift haul the rotten moldy furniture out of there. Okay. And after that's gone, then you can go in there with a shop vacuum cleaner, okay, or a broom. And then in the very end, you can go in there with the hand shovel and the hand broom and the hand shovel and hand whatever, hand brush. Yeah, and then you can do some dusting in the very end. But it has to be mopped, it has to be sterilized, it has to be cleaned with diatomaceous earth solutions and all kinds of. Then it needs healing energy put into it. Like, you have to go in there and you have to sit there in meditation and talk to the remaining entities that were in the dirty, rotten furniture that are now free floating in the garage, angry that you took their house away. You have to talk to all of those, and you have to tell them, it is okay, we are cleaning now, we are healing now. Okay, so in the same sense, you can't be taking medication like metformin or glycoside for type 2 diabetes, my goodness, every day, and think that you can get well with that. You know, you're not going to get well with that. It just covers up your symptoms with the high blood sugar. That's all it does. It doesn't heal your organs, your pancreas, your whatever whatever organs are creating your balancing out your blood sugar and so on. So your liver gets overloaded with this, and you can't come there with a little solution of chelation algae nanonized. Here again, nanonized even. Again, this is not natural, okay? Nanonization, again, is a process where the natural molecule is split away from the core molecule. Then you have free-floating algae molecules. That's not good. Not good at all. That's why then the people get the healing crisis, and they think this is part of the healing. No, if you have a healing crisis, you're doing something wrong. Very, very, very wrong. I know this for sure. I'm an expert now on natural healing. I can say this with utmost conscience without feeling like some kind of imposter syndrome. Okay, I know what I'm talking about here. I've studied this for over 20 years. I know what I'm talking about. Paul doesn't understand it. Okay, he has to quit the pharma drugs if he wants to get well. Okay, and he has to quit frying food. If he wants to use up the rest of that chelation, he can do that in the very end, but don't buy any more. It costs $50, that little bottle. That's insane. Okay, that's like the guy in LA that came to our house. I don't know what he wanted. Oh, he bought something, and he was really sick, and he said, "We are fat also," and I said, "Well, you need to do natural healing. Go to Dr. Schultz. You know, Dr. Schultz's botanical pharmacy was right around the corner," and I told him to go there, and he said, "No, I just want to take a pill and be done with it." And he was not sarcastic. Okay, he was literally saying this. Okay, he literally wants to pop a pill, I don't know, a blue pill or whatever, a toxic red pill or purple or green or yellow pill, and be done with whatever. That fixed him. No, it doesn't. It doesn't fix him. Okay, it makes things worse. Okay, if you cover up a fever and you bring it down artificially, mechanically, then you're lowering your immune system. You have a fever for a reason. That's your natural response, your wholesome response to agitate, to create more, to make the blood flow faster, and get into every capillary, every niche and cranny and intracellular space, and bring all of your macrophages and all of your fighter cells into every part of your body. Okay, that's what the fever is doing. So it's there to help you. Okay, and in the same exact sense with the diabetes, what he's doing is exactly the same thing, basically, you know, for the diabetes. He's just covering up the symptoms. He doesn't even allow his pancreas, this natural organ function, to regain power and strength and all of this. Instead, he's overloading his organs and his brain even. You know, he gets very forgetful. And whatever kind of tic and problem and neurotic issue was there in the past, it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. My mother never took care of her health. Neither did Ronald Reagan or Joe Biden. And look at the result. Look at what's happening to them. Okay? Look at what happened to them. So you don't want to end up like that. So I do not. You know, I'd rather die younger, much younger, before I ever get to that kind of age. But if I can get into complete health and healing, that's what the witches, the so-called witches, were doing. They didn't even have candy bars. They didn't have glycoside. You know, the witches in the Middle Ages, they didn't even have this opportunity to take real, incredibly toxic stuff that was groomed onto them. Okay, by that was advertised onto them on the internet. They didn't even they were much better off. Okay, so they lived out there in the woods, sometimes completely alone with their animals, and they didn't need some neurotic person around them. They were perfectly fine with their animals. They ate nothing but plants, and they studied that on themselves. They tested all of that on themselves, and they were getting very good at it. They became scientists and natural healers. And guess why they lived so long? Guess where this comes from in the fairy tales? Why some witches are 300 years old and they look like 25? There may have been cases like this. Yeah. So people will dismiss that and say, oh, that's just a fairy tale. It does come from actual physical evidence. Okay. There were people like this. And they figured it out. So I have tea bags because, and this varicose vein or whatever, that really sucks, you know. And all of that. And I have blackheads, yes, you better believe it. And I have whiteheads and all kinds of, you know, I have all kinds of skin blemishes and stuff, and some scars here from chicken pox. That's not a problem. But yeah, the problem is when the liver is overloaded, then the skin eliminates toxins. And when the liver is overloaded, then there are just too many toxins for the skin to deal with. And then that's when all of these kind of things are happening. Okay? And that definitely can add to also wrinkles and all kinds of stuff, you know, puffy eyelids or something like this, or frumpy stuff on the chin. But those witches, they knew what they were doing. They didn't have that candy bar. They didn't have that upside down pound cake with aluminum, strontium-90, and radiation and plutonium in it. Okay, they didn't have any of these things. They lived in nature, like Rudolf Steiner was talking about. They were grounded 24 hours per day. They didn't have even rubber shoes. They didn't have rubber under their feet. Okay? Their house, everything was natural. Everything was permanently grounded. That's the ideal situation. They were with the animals. They cuddled all the time. She ate healthy stuff. She fed healthy stuff to her animals, to all the animals, and exercise, hiking, collecting herbs, plants, studying that, writing it down, writing books on herbs, which some of these clergy people burned, which is an absolute atrocity to do, and they burned the witches with their books. Okay. The ultimate atrocity is that. Okay. And so no wonder why some witches came back in entity form. So some of them did, and we need to help them, obviously. They all need help. But most of them were good. Most of them were very, very good. The ones that were troubled probably didn't survive very long. It was the angel souls, the God souls, the scientists, the most amazing people that they had in the community, the smartest people in the community, that they chased away and then even burned. Okay, so it goes against evolution. But anyway, so I have to cut the video off because I'm way over an hour now. So anyway, whole food, whole lifestyle, whole gardening. Okay, do not use pesticides, do not use chemical fertilizers, do not eat anything that has been processed. Okay, and do natural life cycle composting, nutrient rich gardening. Okay, take care. Bye bye.